2019 is going to be the nastiest year in American politics since before the Civil War.
There are so many people in detention who legally should be out.
Why is it? Why do people drink so much?
Governor Gavin Newsom signed an executive order today that pulls the roughly 360 California National Guard troops who've been patrolling the U.S.-Mexico border and redeploys them to other roles. Newsom is the second governor to walk back a predecessor's troop commitment to President Trump after New Mexico Governor Michelle Lujan Grisham called back the majority of her state's National Guard last week.
The crisis on the border is a manufactured crisis.
Education is the right. That is why we have to fight.
Denver teachers have gone on strike for the first time in 25 years after more than a year of negotiations with their school district. It's offered only a small bump to their base salaries and instead wants to increase bonuses linked to factors like student performance. Union leaders say those bonuses can be unpredictable and that some of the money should go to a higher salary for all members. Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orban is waiving income taxes for life for women who raise 4 or more children, among other incentives to would-be parents. It's the far-right leader's latest attempt to reverse the country's population decline without having to compromise on his anti-immigrant nationalism.
Nekünk nem számok kellenek, hanem magyar gyerekek. A mi fölfogásunk szerint a bevándorlás fegyverletételt jelent.
40% of insect species could be extinct in the next few decades, according to a new review of studies from around the world. Researchers say the effects could be catastrophic and devastate our food supply, which depends on insects to pollinate crops and feed animals low on the food chain. The study says the main driver is industrial agriculture, which swallows insect habitats and kills them off with pesticides.
President Trump lands in El Paso tonight to rally support for his ongoing fight with Congress over the border wall. But some anti-immigration hardliners aren't waiting to see how that battle plays out. Steve Bannon was the political mastermind behind Donald Trump's unlikely rise to the presidency.
We're right here.
These days, he's headlining yet another far-fetched campaign, raising support at an Arizona retirement community to build a private border wall.
You excited for tonight?
Yeah. Everybody says all the guys are ready to go.
He invited us to witness the next chapter in one of the strangest and most significant careers in American political history.
See you. You guys make introductions, you get introduced, you do like 5 minutes, etc., right? I did this kind of as a volunteer. I mean, are you going to raise, $2 billion to actually complete the physical barrier? I think the answer to that's probably no.
Get the word out. Be the army. Be our army. Because if we don't fight back, what's going to happen to this country in 20 years? We're not going to have these freedoms that we have today. This is our last stand right now.
The whole idea started with this guy, Ryan Kolfage, a triple amputee Iraq vet who created a GoFundMe page back in December to crowdfund a border wall.
It's a pretty audacious concept.
I was angry. It was 10 days before Christmas, and I was seeing where the rhetoric was going. No one was talking about border security. Creating this was an idea of making people aware of what's going on, of the bigger issue, as well as, supporting something I believed in, which was a wall and security and immigration.
When did Steve Bannon get in touch with you?
Days after it.
Really?
Yeah. It just, once it started hitting, jumping millions and millions and millions a day.
So far, the project has raised more than $20 million from small donors, with plans to break ground in a couple of months. And it's become a favorite cause of a supergroup of out-of-office America Firsters, led by Bannon.
We're building it to all the specs. The Israeli company that built the wall in Israel is going to be our advisor here. We're building everything to spec. If we do the hempcrete, that'll be in an experimental part. We'll say, hey, we're going to do the hempcrete, and we're going to convince you that this should be part of the. Don't let the. I'm obsessed with the hempcrete.
You heard that right. Hempcrete, a concrete-like construction material made from the newly legal hemp plant, pot's non-psychoactive cousin. You love hemp.
There's got to be innovation in the wall. We're not sitting there saying, hey, just a concrete wall or just a steel barrier. It has to be advanced technology.
The hemp is sort of like the cherry on the top of the press release that we have, like Sheriff Clark, we got Bannon.
Original gangsters.
Yeah, we got the OGs. The MAGA OGs are coming together like Voltron, and they're going to use hemp. To me, it feels like a stunt. In the way that the media works, you have been so successful at taking things that people think are absurd and making them happen in real life. Trump presidency. So
But you see, that's the point. It's not absurd. Is that there's an underlying look.
Well, a lot of people think the wall is absurd because it's a political totem, not a functional national security item.
I don't think that's the case. I think it's become,
of course you don't think that's the case, but a lot of people.
I think it's become so politicized. There's no doubt where you're seeing a physical barrier. And a real physical barrier.
You've had
no. What are you? Oh, you're saying it's 16. Yeah. Which way we're gonna go? The reason Trump won the Republican primary was that nobody wanted to focus on either mass illegal immigration or legal immigration as suppressing wages, right, to kind of flood the zone with workers, and trade deals as unfair competition with foreign labor. The whole thing was about workers and wages. Mm-hmm. And that's why I think if you connect them, it's a very powerful narrative.
We have the former Secretary of State of Kansas, Chris Kopach. How you doing, Chris? My old boss, Stephen Kay. How you doing, sir?
Bannon and company preached their populist message to a country club choir of white, mostly older Americans who seemed ready to open their wallets.
Walk me through why this is just not a glorified stunt. Why this is just not, some pipe dream.
I feel deeply invested to this country. I lost my limbs for this nation. It's not a stunt.
This is a true crisis. It is a crisis. American lives are being lost. American jobs are being lost. Drugs, deaths, terrorism coming through. We've got to move forward. I think the president gets it. He wants to move forward.
For a lot of people, this comes down to a very simple idea that there's race and racism behind the policies that the Trump administration instituted that got Trump elected, and that now with, Wall 2.0.
The number one beneficiary of the policies of President Trump, his economic policies and everything he's laid out, is African American and Hispanic.
What about the rising hate crimes that have happened around the country? What about bullying that's happening in schools? There is a tenure that is different.
No. By the way, the left is just as bad. If we want to help the minority communities in this country, we have to restrict the labor pool. People coming up from Central America, this is a tragedy of biblical proportion. Nobody's saying, look, it's horrible then. I was one of the ones in the White House advocating having a 5 nations summit in McAllen to deal with the Northern Triangle countries.
But you were also there in the White House when the child separation policy?
I believe 100% in the child separation policy. It's zero tolerance.
Zero tolerance.
I think it's the most humanitarian because...
And it's now known, DHS is saying that even more children were separated prior to when the zero tolerance policy was announced.
That's correct. But listen...
But that's what people are this is
but here's what all you're doing...
humanitarian disaster that we're perpetuating.
But that humanitarian disaster is what happens in getting the cartels. This is incentive...
So why is one humanitarian disaster a way of dealing with another?
Only zero tolerance will stop that. I realize it's a tough policy.
So the president's going to be in El Paso. What do you think is going to happen there?
I think he's going to, once again, I think he's within a couple of days of having to make a decision. I think there's zero chance they shut down the government.
Really?
Zero chance. I don't think the government's not going to get shut down again.
Sure.
I think he's going to make a case one more time about a national emergency. And I think he may even try to soft sell something short of an actual wall.
He's going to walk back a little bit.
Well, listen, I think myself and a lot of the hardcore Trump movement, I think it will be a walk back. This, to us, is pretty black and white.
Yeah.
You're committed to build a wall. You've got to build a wall. 2019 is going to be the nastiest year in American politics, I think, since before the Civil War.
And you're not even backing the candidates.
Well, Trump is my guy. I'm a right-wing populist. I'm proud of it.
There are 4 days to go before parts of the government shut down again. And a major sticking point between Democrats and Republicans is beds. You probably thought I was going to say border wall, and that's definitely still an issue. But what Congress seems to be stuck on right now are beds. Specifically, the number of detention beds that Immigration and Customs Enforcement, or ICE, can use to detain immigrants. The Trump administration wants enough money for about 52,000 beds. That would be about a 25% increase from the roughly 40,000 that are currently funded by Congress. Democrats want to bring this number down. They're offering enough money to pay for 35,520 beds, and they want to cap the number that ICE can use for people detained inside the country, like because of immigration raids, at 16,500. The rest would be used for immigrants detained at the border. On the surface, this seems a little bit silly, but progressive groups like Human Rights First, which are in the ear of some members of Congress, think it's a worthy issue. Because just like the wall argument, which was never only about a wall, the debate about beds isn't only about beds.
The issue here is that the Democrats believe, and we sort of agree, that there are people in detention who do not need to be in detention. And that ICE has been overspending, using money Congress has not given them for detention, to sort of explode the detention population. There are those who really do not need to be subject to this, and it would actually be cheaper for us taxpayers to not have them detained and to have them in alternatives to detention programs.
And then what is the issue with how ICE has been using the money?
So ICE has been using what's called a transfer authority. And so the federal government has this when Congress decides on budgets for the year. There's still a little wiggle room in case emergencies come up to allow for an agency, a department, to move money around to fill that. And so ICE has sort of been abusing that transfer authority to take money from other budgets and use it to expand detention.
Do you think this is worth shutting the government down over, though? This particular issue that we're talking about with beds, like minus the wall, minus some appropriating things.
I think it's hard to detach them because I think it is a fight over the identity of our nation. So whether it's the wall or whether it's detention, this is all about who is American and who gets to be here. And so like detention is just the latest proxy for this war of the American identity.
Here's the thing, though. As a proxy fight, this one just isn't as winnable as the wall. The wall is a symbol, a big, tall, dark symbol of all the racist things the president has said since before taking office. It's easy for Democrats to message around that, especially after the president himself proudly took responsibility for the shutdown. But this issue is more nuanced, and so far, Republicans and President Trump are having a much easier time spinning it in their favor. Their message? Democrats are even softer on crime than we thought.
Now it turns out not only don't they want to give us the money for the wall, they don't want to give us the space to detain murderers, criminals, drug dealers, human smugglers.
The group of sheriffs at the White House today also helped push that message further.
We're very concerned about the fact that we're going to have people being released from prison that should be held. And imagine in any American city, and the president certainly gets this, that we would say we're going to put a limit on the number of people that commit burglaries or rapes or what have you. After you reach that limit, we're going to release them back in the neighborhoods. That's what's happening.
No, this proposal would not result in the government actively releasing murderers from ICE detention, even if there were a cap on beds, because murderers are subject to mandatory detention, because they're murderers. But unlike his claims about the wall, this feels like a new spin, a fresh lie that hasn't been fact-checked into oblivion for years. So it doesn't play as well for Democrats as the clock ticks towards another shutdown. Now, beds aren't the only thing holding up negotiations. The wall, how many more agents will be funded, what types of agents those will be, it's all on the table. But the beds clearly have Trump feeling better about things. And with the power of the presidency, Trump has helped Republicans on the Hill make this an actual issue. And it turns out beds are a good way to shift talk away from the wall and maybe shift some of the blame for a possible shutdown to Democrats.
Iranians rallied on the streets of Tehran today, the 40th anniversary of the Islamic Revolution.
امسال در شرایطی ما جشن 22 بهمن را برگزار می‌کنیم که در برابر توطئه آمریکای
The U.S. first imposed sanctions in 1979. In 2015, President Obama gave Iran a path out through the international nuclear deal. But President Trump ditched the agreement and reimposed penalties last year, pushing Iran's economy farther into crisis. Masuma Karimi and her son Amir have lived in Tehran their entire lives. A few times a month, they visit the graves of Amir's grandparents in Zahra's paradise. This is one of the world's biggest cemeteries, with about 1.5 million graves. In older sections, plots can cost as much as the average household makes in 6 months, about $4,500 US. The cemetery has expanded in recent years. Here, graves are stacked in threes to deal with overcrowding. By law, Iranians have the right to a grave even if they can't afford it, so the cemetery gives away the first level for free.
یه طبقه اولش خودش بود. خب من دوست داشتم کسی به طبقه دومش یا سومش بخوابه دیگه. گفتیم اونم برای ما بشه دیگه. آره دیگه. غریبه نیاد توی قبر.
روحت شاد. خدا رحمتت کنه.
Staying together means they'll have to pay for the graves on top. That's expensive for Amir, a real estate broker, and for his mother, a tailor who works from home.
قصه قبلی که خریدم
100 تومن رو پرداخت کنید 400 تومن پرداخت کردیم 1,600,000 تومن نمی‌مونه. ظرف 3 ماه گفتن تا کی مهلت داریم؟
تا کی مهلت داریم؟ گفتن تا آخر سال.
چی پرسید؟
تا آخر سال اگه تصفیه نکنی خب میگه افزایش قیمت داره.
خب
میاد به قیمتش.
چقدر میاد؟
نگفتش دیگه ولی میادش دیگه. تو باید تا 3 ماه تصفیه کنیم بره دیگه.
Inflation in Iran is up almost 40% year over year, as sanctions, coupled with economic mismanagement, have driven up the price of everything from consumer goods to fruits and vegetables.
شیر نمی‌خواستیم برای قهوه‌تون که این شکر. شجاع.
Seema Saidi has run a cafe on the outskirts of Tehran for 9 years. Business has never been this bad.
2018 که در واقع یه جورایی بحث تحریم ها خیلی جدی شد از طرف تحریم کننده اصلی آمریکا. اصولا سطح زندگی ما رو آورد پایین. اگه قبلا 2-3 جور غذا درست می‌کردیم الان یه جور غذا درست می‌کنیم. اگه قبلا مثلا می‌رفتیم رستوران من می‌بینم اینو دیگه خودم می‌بینم. اگه قبلا مشتریای ما میومدن هر کدوم یه غذا سفارش می‌دادن الان یه غذا سفارش میدن با هم می‌خورن.
To make ends meet, she's considering abandoning a family custom and selling her own plot next to her father's.
یه روز نشستم با خودم فکر کردم که آقا قبر میخوای چی کار؟ الان تو میتونی مثلا قبر تو بفروشی. چون شنیده بودم که خیلی قیمتش رفته بالا. مثلا 2-3 سال پیش قبل از این بحرانا اون موقع من میتونستم با 35 تومن خیلی کارا بکنم اینجا. مثلا میدونم که میتونستم بکنم. یا حتی برم یه بیزینس دیگه راه بندازم.
What's an easy choice for Seema is an impossible one for the Karimi family.
دوست دارم 2 تا قبر بغل هم 2-3 تا قبر بغل هم بخریم. خب 3-4 طبقه.
خانوادگی.
خانوادگی هم.
Fucking big goal, man. At the end of every summer, thousands of teens from all around Copenhagen gather in this field to celebrate the start of a new school year, with one of Denmark's favourite traditions.
Yes! Tuborg!
Drinking.
What is this place? This is like a forest in Denmark where every people are going and party and drinking and have a lot of fun. Hello, HBO.
Welcome to Denmark.
Thanks very much.
You gotta drink beer. Hello.
You gotta drink beer in Denmark. This is what I hear. How old are you?
I'm 16.
You're 16.
I'm 16.
16.
So legal.
Okay.
Legal drink. No, but there's no.
I'm 15, so illegal. Yeah. Then get away. We don't want to see you in that case. Denmark, you may or may not know. has a reputation for having the most amount of teenagers in Europe who drink. Why do you think that is? It's good. Why is it? Why do people drink so much? Because
It's amazing.
because drinking's amazing.
Why are you saying this?
Thanks to this merry tradition, in 2015, Denmark was awarded the dubious honour of having the booziest teens in Europe. According to the most recent available data, a third of Danish teens said they'd been intoxicated in the last 30 days, more than 3 times the European average. You have to be 16 to buy beer and wine, but there's actually no legal drinking age in Denmark.
Why are people drawing all over everybody?
That's like the seniors. They are always drawing on the juniors.
Okay.
Yeah.
And freshmen. Oh, freshmen.
Yeah, freshmen. Yeah, that's a tradition.
To be honest, it seems like everybody's having lots of fun. Do not draw on me, whatever you do.
Oh, do not.
The party is adult-free, but everyone we spoke to said their parents had either dropped them off or given them alcohol to take. Police patrol the perimeter, and the Red Cross is available for any medical issues.
The first time I was here at this event, I needed medical attention because I drank so much because...
You did it?
He was throwing his vomit up in the back.
Danish teens' extravagant drinking habits haven't gone completely unnoticed by the grown-ups. One viral YouTube video, produced by a leading national health organisation, showed Danish boys getting increasingly drunk and decreasingly attractive on hidden camera blind dates. And an online government quiz for parents resulted in the user earning a super parent badge, even if you let your pretend 10-year-old take a bottle of vodka from the pantry.
The Viking approach, if you could call it that, is like drinking a lot, but not drinking very often. You know, they were like drinking off their horns, and once you had beer in the horn, you had to drink it all because you couldn't put it anywhere.
Peter Dallum is one of Denmark's leading researchers in alcohol abuse prevention and heads up the teen drinking campaign at the Danish Cancer Society, the nation's most prominent public health organisation.
The reasons why we bike is that everybody expects people to bike. Everybody see other people bike, and we have a very good infrastructure for biking. And it's actually exactly the same with alcohol culture among young people. It is extremely easy to get alcohol in Denmark. The laws are not very strict.
When you're coming up with ways to reduce teenage drinking, have you looked elsewhere in Europe to find any examples of how to do it?
At the moment, the Icelandic example is quite popular. In the last 20 years, the figures have gone down from like 30-40% usage to less than 5% usage.
And how have they gone about doing that?
They did a multi-approach where they both had the parents to go in and do a lot with the children. Also, they had regulations. To a large degree, that actually could be transferred to a Danish setting.
But presumably that requires political buy-in.
Yeah, of course.
But what you're saying is there a reluctance from politicians to do anything?
They tend to do nothing, actually. That's like the main strategy.
In an effort to make young teens here drink more responsibly, a national health organisation enlisted a group of high school students to star in an educational virtual reality game.
Cool. And so what are you doing here today?
Well, I'm playing a guy named Liam, who's kind of the bad boy in here. He's got his way with the ladies, if you know what I mean.
Well, I'm a girl who drinks all the time.
I have this role of, drinking so much that I need to go puke in the toilet. That's my role.
Christian Stock is the lead researcher for the VR project.
In prevention work, role play has traditionally played a role. And we know that this increases the abilities of young people if they encounter certain situations, that they know how to deal with it. The new component with virtual reality is that we translate this more traditional role play you can do in classrooms with kids into this virtual environment. And we will simulate typical party situation or other drinking situations before the party starts at home. And the user of this tool can in interactive ways make decisions about saying yes to a drink or no, and then explore what happens next.
So when the main character meets him, the one you play as, he's already quite tipsy and he's not feeling so well. You get two options. One is to take him onto the dance floor or get him to the toilet.
Who's going to benefit from watching this VR experience?
People who already drink a lot, it won't really hit them very hard at all. The people who are very insecure about parties and drinking will benefit a lot from this.
Researchers plan to release their game this spring. Until then, teenagers will just have to rely on the real world to learn some of life's most important lessons.
Do you think it's possible to have fun without drinking?
Yeah,
yes, of course it is.
It probably is, but it's a lot more fun to be drunk. Do you know how to behave though when you're drunk? Yeah, I know. People worry. Do you know what I mean? But people worry that you drink too much and then you start making bad choices. But the thing is, in Denmark, when we can drink so early, we also learn early to not behave as good.
But how do you avoid becoming that person?
Not drinking too much. But it's hard. Okay, we're good. Brilliant. Thank you. Thank you. Really nice to talk to you.
Do you give vodka if we keep staying here?
No.
So we don't get any alcohol.
I'm not here to give alcohol.